Hello everyone. It's Ngozi and I'm back with another video. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about some things you should know before moving to Houston, Texas. All right. Thank you all for showing the love on the video, what I wish I knew before moving to Houston. I know some people get offended. I don't understand why. Same thing happened when Nnena made her Charlotte video, what I wish I knew before moving to Charlotte, North Carolina. And like we say, nowhere is perfect. You're always going to have things to say about wherever you are. It doesn't make it complaining. It just makes you, just saying some things you wish you know, no matter how much research you do. Like people say, research. There's some things you will never know until you move into that new city, new town, new country, new state, whatever. So I wanted to get into this because I think this is a big thing that a lot of people struggle with. Basically, the difference between living in Houston versus living in the Houston metro area, okay? This is important to me because a lot of people, like when I was moving down here, some people would be like, oh, why don't you look into Sugarland? Or why don't you live here? Why don't you live here? And I was very adamant about living in Houston proper. Like when I write my address, it says Houston, Texas, zip code. All right. And there's a reason behind that. Houston is located in Harris County. Harris County is the county that Houston is in, and Houston is very big. Forget even the metro area. Houston, I can drive from one part to Houston to the other and it'd be over an hour and I'm still in Houston proper. With that being said, I think it's really important that people understand the difference between Houston and the Houston metro area. I know that people still refer to it as Houston, especially if let's say you're talking to somebody outside of Texas. You're like, oh, I'm moving, and you live like in Katy. You're not really going to tell that person Katy, because most likely someone who is not from Texas, is not from here, doesn't know what Katy is. So you're going to say, yeah, I'm moving to Houston. And when you say you're going to Houston, you basically mean Houston and its metro area. But once you come here, you realize that it's but it's different. It's different in terms of demographics, the geography, cost of living, the school systems. It is different, all right? The best way for me to go about describing this is really just looking at the map. I'm going to try and put up a map up here, the map that I'm looking on my phone right here. And basically, if you look at Houston on a map, you have like the popular areas that people like refer to, like north, west, southwest, south. People don't really say east. Honestly, I haven't really heard that too much, but east, and you have more of like the central. But I'm talking about in terms of the map, you have your northeast, southwest, and like you have the center of the map. When you're looking at actual Houston, you have the northern part, and that includes Timber Grove and the Houston Heights, which I hear always referred to as the Heights. And then you go to the east, you have downtown and like midtown. So that's why I said people don't really refer to it as like the east, because you usually would just say downtown or midtown. But technically on the map, that's East Houston if you're looking at it based on the map. Then you have the South, and like I said, I've never really heard someone say, "Oh, I'm from South Houston," you know what I mean? But like the South is more of has like the medical center, the museum district, Rice, West University. That's in southern Houston. Then you have Southwest, which is popular. I actually do hear people refer to the Southwest area of Houston, like Southwest. North and Southwest are the two areas I hear people actually refer to. Southwest has like the West Chase area and like the Galleria. Those are considered really the Southwest. And then you have West Houston, which is really Memorial, like Tanglewood, like really just really heavily the Memorial area. That's where I stay, West Houston, all right? And then you have Central Houston, which is really, River Oaks, Montrose, Kirby, the Rice Military, like that area is really the center, like really like the center of the map. That's what would be technically considered to be Central Houston, all right? With all these areas I listed, north, east, south, southwest, west, they all have neighboring towns that are not Houston per se, not technically Houston, as in when you write it out, you wouldn't say Houston, but you would say the town, but technically it could be very close, even closer than other parts of actual Houston to you. For example, I'm in West Houston. I'm in the Memorial area, and Katy is closer to me, like getting into just like Katy is closer to me than going to downtown Houston. Like distance wise, miles wise, time wise, it's closer for me to go to Katy, which is also west of Houston. So that's, if you look on a map, it'll be right like adjacent to this memorial area off of the same 610. What is that? No, sorry, not 610. I still get confused. Off of the same I-10. Katy is literally right there. So let's say we're thinking of like the western part of Houston. You have Katy and like Cypress. Those are like western, which would basically those two areas be very close to me, who's in the memorial area. Then let's say you take about North Houston. You have that's where the airport is, I believe, is north part of Houston. Like Humble is like right there. Like I literally went to the airport a couple weeks ago and I had to go to post office and it was closing real quick. By the time I can get out of that area, everywhere would have closed. And what was coming up my GPS for me was to go to the post office in Humble. And I went to Humble and I'm like, oh, this is Humble. Wow, it's so close. Like it's super close. It's like literally right there. The airport is right north of Houston. So I was like, wow, like this would be really great for someone that really travels a lot or goes to the airport a lot to live in this part of Houston, live in this part like the Houston metro area. Other than that, you have Tumble, you have the Woodlands, you have Conroe, Springs, Kingwood, Aldine. Those are like all like the northern part of the Houston metro area, right? Then you have the east. I was really just seeing Baytown and Pasadena, but I know they have so many other towns. It gets overwhelming, honestly. But east, the eastern part of Houston, those are like the bordering towns in the Houston metro area. Then you have South Houston. All right, so you have Clear Lake, Pearland, Webster, Friendswood, League City, Fresno, Manville. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I don't know all these things off my head. All right, so those are all like the suburbs that are south of Houston, right? Then Southwest, these are a lot of the real popular ones that a lot of people, who are in this area, I feel like I hear of them mostly living in these areas. Southwest, you have Missouri City, you have Sugarland, you have Stafford, you have Richmond, you have Rosenberg, all right? And like I mentioned with the West, is really just, Katy and Cypress. Not the only ones, but I'm saying those are like the major ones. So the point I'm trying to make by listing all this, I don't want to confuse y'all, but you have to understand there is a difference between living in Houston and living in the Houston metro area. And the big thing I know a lot of people talk about the schools, right? I know that there is some issues with the Houston. I know they refer to as the ISDs, and I know a lot of people, especially if you have a family, you have little kids, a lot of people prefer to live in the suburbs, like the metro area, the suburbs of Houston, not Houston proper, because like any major city, it can be an issue with the public school system. Let's be real. That's with any major city. I don't think it's specific to Houston, but I know Houston has a lot of really, really nice suburbs. And then you talk about space, size. Houston has houses, of course. Every city has houses. But from my personal experience, when I drive through Houston, even when I see houses, like the real nice houses I see is like in the Post Oak area, and reality is that the average person is not living there. Like those are like $1 million mansions, old money, like average person is not living there. So when you see like these new developments and these constructions that are like springing up, they're usually not in Houston proper. They're like in Richmond or Sugarland or, Cypress. Like they're usually in the outside, and, there's more space, there's more land, there's so many reasons why people choose to build out there. Proximity and distance. This is very, very important. And this is probably the major reason I'm making this video. I watch so many videos and people like, I'm going to come to Houston and get a $7 apartment, 1 bedroom. You hear like these crazy prices. When people come to the South, they can sometimes have very unrealistic expectations of what they're going to pay for the cost of living. We all know it's 2022. We're entering a recession. Inflation is crazy. Things are expensive, right? So I know a lot of people, it's a personal decision, right? Most likely, like we know, it's a supply and demand thing. People usually want to be in the proximity, the center of things. And when things are closer, it's usually more expensive. You go farther, it's usually cheaper. So you have people that would say, I'm moving to Houston, but then they move to like Missouri City. Let me give you an example, like somewhere like Missouri City. And not to say anything's wrong with it. I've never been there. I heard some great things about it. But if you're someone moving here to turn up and be in that nightlife and be out every weekend, living in Missouri City may not be worth it, considering you saving a couple $100s. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you have to really be real with yourself about the lifestyle and what you do and what you want to do on it. Where you work. That's usually probably number one, to be honest, with these gas prices. Where you work, and then what you after work, what you do. What are your moves like? Where do you like to hang out? Even me, I'll give you an example. I got a trainer. I go to the gym in downtown, and it takes me 45 minutes to an hour with traffic. Only do it 3 times a week. I really like the girl. I just wanted to start something, and I couldn't find anyone else closer to me. I had a couple of things I wanted to be met with my personal trainer. So I'm giving you that example. Like, coming back is usually like 25 minutes. Is not bad, but driving there, it has taken me up to an hour to get to downtown Houston during rush hour to get to my gym. So I'm just giving you that example, and the only reason why I'm able to do that is because I work from home. So I'm like, okay, even if I drive 3 days a week, I suck it up. I look at it almost like going out, like a social activity is good for me. I want to reach certain goals. So I'm like, I just have to suck it up and go and do it. But I'm just giving you that example. Like, if you're someone who wants to be in downtown Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you want to be lit and turned, I wouldn't suggest moving somewhere that's an hour away. That's me personally. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. So I think I've watched so many of those videos and people are like, oh, I wish I understood more about the Houston versus the Houston metro area when I was moving there, so I wouldn't have just got this $800 1-bedroom that's amazingly priced, but I'm in it all day because I don't want to drive an hour to go out where I'm going to see young people. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you enter these suburbs, like, it's very family orientated. I know there's things everywhere. People don't come for me, but let's be real. Like, if you're trying to be out in the heart of the city doing certain things, it's not gonna, for the most part, be in these suburbs in the metro area. Those are for families. Those are where you're going to build your house, live with your family. Like, those are not areas where I wouldn't recommend someone leaving, especially if you're leaving from the Northeast or the West Coast. Particularly if you're not used to the southern life, I would not recommend moving to Houston and living outside of Houston. That's me personally, unless you're really like on the border, maybe. Like, I gave the example, like, I'm very close to Katy, but even though I'm close to Katy, even just driving there, I'm just like, yo, like, this is a family town. Like, it's very suburban. Even the part of Houston I'm in, it's kind of too suburban for me. So I'm like, nah. But, like, I personally would suggest to live in Houston and understand the areas, understand the neighborhood. I'm going to have a video coming up on that, particularly about the neighborhoods in Houston. But I want to, explore more and see more of it first before I make that video, because that's also very important. Even picking where within Houston you're going to stay, because, like I said, you can drive an hour and still be in Houston. Houston is large. It's very big. So if you in East Houston and someone's all the way in West Houston, or you in North and someone's in South, it's going to be a very different experience, all right? And I know I mentioned that Houston is in Harris County, but for example, somewhere like Katy is located in 3 counties, Fort Bend, Harris, and also Waller. There's also a lot of other major counties that are surrounding the Houston area, which the towns that are in the Houston metro area fall in. A lot of popular counties as well, like Fort Bend, Brazoria, Chambers, Waller, Liberty, Galveston, and Montgomery. For anyone moving to Houston, I would really stress trying to understand Houston and the Houston metro area, and understand when people say Houston, most times they're also including the metro area, but there's a difference. You understand? Like, when people refer to, Houston, we going to Houston, you don't go, you may think you're going to visit your family in Houston, make all these plans to be in downtown and midtown, then you find out your family lives in the Woodlands. You know what I mean? But they still refer to themselves as Houston, because, like I said, if you say the Woodlands to someone outside of this area, they're not going to know what that is. If you say freaking Missouri City, or you say Pearland to someone who's not from Texas, not even from particularly not from the Houston area, they don't know what that is. So people just by default say, yeah, Houston, but they really a lot of times are referring to the metro area. The suburbs of Houston is another word that people use, the suburbs of Houston. Since Houston is the city, then you have the suburbs, which technically are within the metro area, not really technically in Houston, but we refer to it as Houston. I don't want to confuse y'all too much, but let me know what you think about this. If you are planning to move to Houston, do you know what part you're looking at? Are you looking to move into Houston, the city, or looking to move into the metropolitan area? Are you looking to, live by yourself? Are you coming with kids? kids, your family. Let me know, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Also, we have a lot of content coming up, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye.